Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. Join me today as I go through my top 5 G.I Joe Classified Joes. Okay then, so before I start, I just want to go over a couple of things. Firstly, I'm going to reiterate that it's just the Joes only. I will be doing a separate video for the Cobra figures at a later date. I shall be having an honourable mention figure, and I also will be having a worst figure. And believe you me, there were a lot to choose from, and I still don't think that I've decided as of yet as to who is the worst figure. How I'm going to be doing this is by going off their original look from the 1980s and how that has transformed from the 1980s into the 6-inch version, modern day version of that figure. So that is how I'm going to be doing it. So let's crack on then. I shall start off with the honourable mention. So 2 seconds. Okay then, so my honourable mention goes to Stalker. Now, if I hadn't have restricted myself to how they looked in the 80s, and it was the 80s figure, but just like in 6-inch scale, he would have been in my top 5 for sure. I think his camouflage is awesome. The weapons he's got are fantastic, and he looks the part. He does. He's an amazing looking figure. But unfortunately, he doesn't quite look like his 80s style figure, which for me is a good thing, because I think he looks better here. But because I'm going on how they looked in the 80s, he doesn't quite fit the bill. So he is my honourable mention. Any other time, top 5 or top 10 or whatever, he would have definitely ranked highly within that top 5, top 10 for sure. Anyway, so he's my honourable mention. Let's move on to number 5. Okay, so in 5th place, I have Barbecue. And I thought I had picked my top 5, but then I realised I had some more Joes sitting in the cupboard, so I thought I better open them up and include those. And as looks go, from the 80s, he doesn't look too far off. It's the same kind of colour work for his uniform. Obviously, he's got more accessories and stuff like that, but on the whole, I think he's a really good looking figure. And he will definitely be displayed in my display now that I've got him out the box. So yeah, pretty impressed with this. Barbecue, really. What more can you say? Firefighter. He's got an axe just around this side, a little axe. He's got his main axe here. He's got his little gun there, or his little squirty McSquirt thing there, with a hose. So yeah, overall, I don't think you can go wrong with that. Pretty impressed with him, so liking him. So yes, Barbecue, now out of the box, and going to be in the display, and he comes in at number 5. Let's move on to number 4. Okay then, so in at number 4 for me is Lady J. Yet again, another figure that I forgot I had and had stashed away. So now she will be out on display. Really liking this. Obviously here you can see 2 versions. You've got the standard classified version, and then you've got the G.I Joe retro style version with that fantastic looking card art. Now, if it had just been the standard version of Lady J in this, again, she would have been an honourable mention and not in the top 5. Very similar looking to how she was back in the 80s, but the green is a little bit darker. And yes, I'm being that picky and fussy about it. So what saved Lady J was this one here. You can see she's a lot lighter green, and she looks more like the figure, or the colour of the figure of what she had back in the 80s. So yeah, great looking figure. I think she looks pretty cool, and she will display well as well. So with the retro, you get the backpack and the camera here. You get a different backpack with the standard classified, and also if I take her away for a second, I should bring her back. She also has a normal hairpiece minus the cap, which I don't mind at all. I think she looks quite cool like that. So I'm debating as to whether to what's the word, displayer that way or with the cap. So I've not decided yet. But yeah, number 4 for me, Lady J. Let's move on to number 3. Okay then, so in at number 3 for me is the Commando version of Snake Eyes. And this is by far the best released figure that I have in my collection of Snake Eyes. Yes, the colour scheme is pretty much the same as what it was back in the 80s. Black, you can't really go wrong with that, can you, I guess. He's got his Uzi there. He's got like a little commando knife there. Obviously, this is more detailed because it's a modern day version. So, but other than that, yeah, you can't go wrong with Snake Eyes. He did come with Timber. I'm not going to include Timber in this because when Snake Eyes was a commando, he didn't have Timber, and it was only when Snake Eyes turned to the Ninja that they included Timber with him. So I do have Timber, but like I said, I'm not going to be showing him with this. It's just about Snake Eyes. So yeah, a really good looking figure. I know they have released another version of Snake Eyes as a ninja with Timber. If I get him, that will be 4 Snake Eyes I have in total, and I'm not sure if I want that many. I'm quite happy with him at this moment in time, but with me, you never know. I could end up getting him. But yeah, he looks pretty cool. So happy with him. So he is my number 3. Let's move on to number 2. Okie dokie then. So in at number 2 for me is Gung Ho, this big hulking, bulking man. What a fantastic looking figure this is. And why Hasbro didn't release him like this in the first place is anybody's guess. The Gung Ho that they released in the classified standard line wasn't great. Didn't look anything like him. Yeah, not impressed with that at all. So I was really delighted when they decided to do the retro carded line in the 6-inch, and he was one of the first figures that I got, because you can't not have a Gung Ho in your G.I Joe collection. Yeah, the uniform, the colours, the backpack, the weaponry, everything is just takes me back to the 80s with this figure, and I'm so impressed. Like I say, Hasbro with the classified lines, they've not done such a great job on certain figures, and we'll come to that at the end of this video. But when they've got it right, they have got it right. And I don't want to talk about it too much, but like I said before, I think with Valaverse and the Action Force line coming out, I think that really kicked Hasbro up the arse, and they've decided to go back to the classic looking 80s, which they should have started with in the first place, because that's what people remember. That is G.I. Joe. But there you go. What's done is done. Great figure. Really liking this. And like I say, you cannot go wrong with Gung Ho. So he is my number 2. And let's move on to number 1. Okay, so my number 1 is Dusty. Again, when I look at him, I just think to that small 3 3/4 looking action figure back from the 80s. And everything that I see in him reminds me of how he looked in the 80s. It was a close call between Gung Ho and Dusty, but I just love his look. I love the browns. I love the beige colour. His gun looks great. His backpack is just spot on for me. And, I am so impressed with this figure. I really do like Dusty. So, actually, saying that, there's a bloody great big gap there between the elbow, the shoulder joint, not the shoulder joint, the upper arm and the shoulder joint. So, yeah, didn't notice that. Anyhow, despite that, he's a good looking figure, and he is a well worthy number 1 spot in my opinion. I just wish going forward now that Hasbro do carry on releasing the figures like they did, or like they're doing now, and long may that continue. So yes, so Dusty is my number 1 figure. Absolutely fantastic. Like I say, liking everything about him, and he is a real throwback to his 80s look. So there's my top 5. So what I shall do is I shall get them all lined up, put them all together, and then after that we'll crack on with the worst. 2 seconds. So here they are, my top 5 G.I Joe Classified Joes. Barbecue at number 5. Lady J at number 4. In at number 3 we have the Commando Snake Eyes. Number 2, Gung Ho. And in at number 1 is Dusty. Now, looking at these together, the colours, I just think they look absolutely fantastic. So well done, Hasbro, for these. I know not everybody's a fan, but that's okay because you can't like everything. But for me, I'm really liking these. These look great in my display. Well, they will look great in my display when I get them displayed. Just to say that there's a couple of other figures that have missed out in this this countdown. One of them is Breaker, and the other one is Roadblock, and I do have Flint as well and Beachhead. But these guys will be displayed all together on my shelf with the G.I Joes. So yeah, they just look fantastic. Really happy with these, and I know my friend Chris Miwa from Chasing 80s Toys, I know he's liking these as well. So maybe one day you might dibble dabble and get a couple to add to your collection, because I know you're also a big Joe fan. Right, that's enough wiffle waffle from me. What I'm going to do now is try and pick the worst out of these guys. So 2 seconds and I'll be with you. Okay, so after much pondering of my thoughts, I really couldn't decide who was the worst out of these 4, because they are all pretty shocking, if I'm honest. As action figures, they do look pretty cool. I will give them that. They don't look bad as action figures. But as far as G.I Joe is concerned, this isn't G.I Joe. I mean, this is Roadblock, it's Scarlet, this is Duke, and this is Gung Ho. Now, I've heard that there was a video game released of G.I Joe, and these were the styles of the figures. In my opinion, that should never have been how Hasbro led the classified line. Go back to the roots, go back to the foundation of G.I Joe, go back to the original figures and the original look, and then if you want to bring a game out and update them and make them more futuristic, then do so. But don't start with these, because at first I know these figures put a lot of people off because they looked nothing like their original look from the 80s. So in my opinion, these 4 are as bad as each other. I mean, the Nerf guns were ridiculous. I mean, the only one that's got any sort of decent look about her would be Scarlet, with the weapons, and that they're not too bad. But you've got this great big Nerf thing here for Roadblock. Gung Ho's got these Nerf looking guns, and so is Duke. I mean, he can't even stand properly. I mean, you've got to splay his legs at different angles and that to just to get him to stand. So they've redone Roadblock, which in my opinion isn't a bad figure. He looks very much like he did from the 80s, but he's missing Marjuice. So you need to do a Roadblock with Marjuice, and then I'll be happy, along with a load of other G.I Joe classified fans, or G.I Joe fans, should I say. Gung Ho. So they've done a decent thing and released him. He looks a lot better, because I wasn't impressed with this one at all. Duke, they really must redo him, because I think he's a big character. He deserves better. And Scarlet, facial wise, she doesn't look too bad. Size wise, I think she looks pretty good. But that uniform isn't the Scarlet that we know and love from the 80s. So you need to redo Roadblock with Marjuice, and don't be lazy, Hasbro, and give him the Gatling gun that came with the Ram, because obviously I know you're saving pennies. You need to redo Scarlet. Keep the face sculpt. I love the face sculpt. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people said she looked a bit young, but you know, I thought she looked okay. Not an issue there. Just give her the 80s uniform. Duke, need to redo him. These stupid shin guards at the front make it difficult for his ankles to rock forward. And then Gung Ho, you've redone him. So yeah, I'm going to keep these figures. I'm not going to get rid of them, because like I say, I don't say, but I mean, I've seen people customize them and they look pretty cool. But yeah, this is the original 4 figures from the classified line of G.I Joe from Hasbro. Yeah, like I say, they all come in joint top of first because they're all equally shite. But other than that, that's all I've got to say really. Yeah, can't say too much more than that, can I? I think I've covered everything. Yeah, so we'll get rid of these, and then what I'll do is I'll just show you the display again with the other figures in the display. So 2 seconds. Okay, so here they are then added to the display. So you've got Beachhead at the back there. There's Roadblock with that bloody great big Gatling gun. There's Flint. I mean, he doesn't look too bad, but he's not a favourite of mine. Then you've got Lady J there with Dusty and Snake Eyes. And over the back there, you've got, can't remember his name, Barbecue. Next video, well, not next video I'll be doing, but I will be doing another video of my favourite Cobras. So there you go. Again, I've got some stashed away somewhere. So we'll have a look, see what they've got there. But what I'm going to do now is whiz back over to these guys and give them some more airtime. They get more airtime than they deserve. But all I've got left to say is, if you're new to the channel, feel free to comment, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to let you know of more content. And as always, there will be more content. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your support. And see you guys and girls in the next video. Take care for now. Stay safe. Bye-bye.